What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo.
Welcome to Couch in the Roo, presented as always by Pure Options Craft Cannabis. If you are trying to deal with Twitter today or X or anything, Pure Options is here to help because it is a headache. It is not working. And the person who is handling all of our government efficiency cannot run his own website, apparently. Pure Options has some incredible March Madness deals coming, but right now, some great deals as well. Go to pureoptions.com. Good stuff coming. Good stuff in March here. Download the app. Join the Pure Perks loyalty program, and have your Pure Options experience tailored just to you, like it is for both of us. Also, our Monday afternoon show presented by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels. It is like going to be 60 degrees out today. It is perfect muskox weather. No coat needed. Just a man walking around in all his glory in a muskox, not covered up. Just your eyes pop, your chins are less. The whole deal. I'm telling you, you look your best when you're just in a muskox and nothing else. And you can do that now in this weather. Go to gomuskox.com to place your order today. And Couch and the Rube listeners, of course, get $15 off a flannel purchase with the promo code FIXITINPOST. Jason, how you doing, brother?
It's the American way. Except America has gotten soft.
I mean, I felt all of Fred Human.
I'm not talking about Michigan.
What's up, buddy? How are you, man?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Anti-Elon, pro-Dusty May guy over here, Graham Couch.
I'm just going to say, so I'm going to put this out there. I think our show will be better for it because this is one of those days when we do listener hot takes where sometimes if everybody's fired up about the same thing, the show is worse. Because there's a lot of repetitive takes and it's hard to sift through them or, get the best ones out and really create the show we want. And Elon helped with this because Twitter's been mostly down for like 10 hours. I was able to see a lot of them on the app and it just popped up again. And so I think I got one from just about everybody at least who posted on Twitter. But if you were on Blue Sky, you're all in here. If you emailed me, you're all in here.
Conspiracy? I don't know. My Twitter was kind of working except for like 2 hours this morning, so I don't know.
Nope. Wasn't
10 hours for you. That's pretty crazy.
Every time I was trying to log on to copy and paste the hot take, so I wrote a lot of them in from people. And so
when did you finally give up on it, though? Because you were like, well, I guess this is Elon's fault. Moving on.
I kept trying all the way through like 12:45. Then I got here and it was working again, so we went through and got some, and anyway, it is.
The worst news I could have told you. Like, I don't know. It's working for me right now. I see it.
Are you serious? It's fucking Elon guy.
I'm sorry.
Your hate for Elon makes me laugh so hard.
You can't be the person deciding whether we have air traffic controllers or not if you can't make Twitter run like it ran before you operated it. That's all I'm saying. That's it. And it messed with our
But
show.
you are pro Dusty May, so which guy are you going to support?
How am I pro Dusty?
I don't know. It's all I heard here. It's like how pro Dusty May you were after the whole melee at the end of the game here, and I'm just like, what the.
We are going to get into this. We are definitely going to get into this.
I hope so. It'd be weird if we just blew by it and some Tiger takes or something.
No. It's if only Dusty May, if only he'd been wearing a muskox yesterday, I might have just completely.
You can't hawk loogies either. I'm just getting over this thing. And if you're hawking, we're going to sound terrible.
No, I'm fine.
We have to postpone this whole show.
I'm 100% healthy. I've been
finally getting over this whole thing, and then you're going to hawk loogies.
I'm good. I'm running around. I'm good. We're good.
So much Dayquil and NyQuil this weekend.
No, I wouldn't. No, in fact, when we were in Iowa and. Solari sounded like if you watch the video we did.
Graham.
We did a post-game video from Iowa.
Yeah.
And Solari's voice does not sound great. And I don't realize it because we're not sitting next to each other until we're doing the video. And if you look at me, I don't look at him like you're supposed to in a video. I'm like staying away as far as I can. I'm like, if this guy gets me sick, fucking A. And I was not.
Is that the one with Tony Garcia, or
no,
was that last night?
That
one made me laugh, where it's just the screen grab is just you and Solari staring at Tony Garcia, and I'm just like, I feel so bad for that guy. I couldn't imagine looking over and seeing you two dudes. But
all right, well, let's should we dig into these hot takes?
Yeah, you're pro Dusty May, so go ahead. You enjoyed that whole melee at the end there.
I did not.
No big deal for Dusty May.
So,
are you like Dusty May? You had no idea that Michigan State celebrated on fucking senior day, though?
Let me take people through the process of. So where I was mostly inconclusive was when we did the video with Tony Garcia and Solari, right? That's where people are getting that from.
Gotcha.
Because I didn't really write about it in the quick takes because it was happening at the end. I mean, I wrote about it, but not really my take on whether Michigan had done this intentionally or anything like that. But at that time, I had not really seen any of the videos. I'd only seen what's live. When it started live, I had my head down in the quick takes because that's what I do on free throws in the last minute of the game, right? So I'm not and so I didn't have a great grasp of it. Probably should have found a way to have a better grasp before that. In a situation like that, I'm not in Dusty May's presser because they're doing all that on the court stuff. So I don't hear what he has to say really. So I'm probably was too limited information to be doing a video. I should have told Solari we're not doing a video, you know. But we went out and did a video, and I was just based it on what I saw on the court and what seemed logical to me for a team with 2 freshmen at center court, with that many transfers, with a new head coach, sometimes guys do stand near half court on free throws, especially if there are other guys between when you're doing substitutions and stuff like that, and there are other guys, you want to be between the basket and the nearest opponent sometimes. I've seen that before. Anyway, so in my head, I'm thinking there is an explanation for this. I don't want to be the person jumping to conclusions here just because, you know, everybody wants that to be what it is, right? So you go back and you look at all the angles, and Ant Wright did something last night. Ant Wright, who we had on last Wednesday, he did a post, and he basically thought those kids had no idea what happened. I disagree with him. I've just seen too many angles. He was pointing out one, and the communication between Akins and the play, and how those kids wouldn't have hurt Akins and all that stuff. It is possible that there are factions within Michigan that didn't know what was happening. You know, it is possible that those guys didn't exactly know why they were told to stand there, or that those guys did it and the coaches didn't know, or Dusty May didn't know, and some coach said to do. Who knows? Who knows?
So you're in the camp that thinks Dusty May didn't know, actually.
I don't know exactly what it is. I know he handled it weirdly. Like the idea that he said they rubbed our noses in it speaks to the idea that he didn't understand what was happening and that was coming. And which is possible. And as Ant Wright said last night, players are a lot less understanding of what's going on than people think. Like he only knew Michigan's schedule when he played because he was trying to set up, he said, which girl was coming to which game. That's the only reason he even knew the schedule, right? So, like, kids are stupid. Players are much more aloof than you think to some degree. Like, people are obsessed with this, so, like, they all know.
That's why there was a baby screaming in the background during Ant's interview.
So that's right. That was one of the girls who showed up.
Right. All these years later.
So, anyway, there's a lot of things that could have happened. He's either unaware of what the right hand was doing, or he's just lying, or he's, you know, what. I think the problem is what happened plays into what Michigan has been to MSU in this rivalry in a couple sports. 30 years ago in basketball, more recently in football, stirring up shit and then playing the victim, right? And so when that's who you have been in multiple cases, you don't get the benefit of the doubt. And that's where this starts. So if for example, if you're Michigan and if you really want your name cleared in this, I don't know if it's a big enough deal for that to happen. But if you really want, if you were Dusty May and you're like, I looked like an ass during that press conference, I apologize, I didn't realize what was happening. If you truly didn't, I would use this week's media availability to at least address that and say, hey, I bungled this. This is what I thought was happening. This is what, and I don't think he'll do that, but I would do that.
Why do that now? Why do it now?
Right. Well,
there's the brand going,
and there's an argument you've played into what your own fan base loves, and so you don't want to do that. Somebody over there, I think, knew what was happening because of where they were standing, how central they were on the logo. I don't know whether they understood what Jaden Akins was saying to them. You know what I mean? Like, I can understand standing at half court, but and Trey Holloman did not give them a whole lot of time. I'll say that for, like, if you watch the video, Trey doesn't go up and say, "Hey, we would like you to move." Trey gives him about a millisecond and then says, here's a shove to the chest.
Well, I thought Akins and Fiddler kind of said something like, hey, and then all of a sudden Holloman saw all this and then went up and kind of pushed them out of the way. I just like Dusty May going full Harbaugh and just acting like, what are you talking about? We can't stand at half court. And then looking at the media going like, right? Is it okay to? And the media is just like, oh, absolutely. Yeah, you actually can, Dusty. Yeah. You know, it's like.
There have been a couple.
Dusty May knows what's going on.
There
right?
have been
Even
couple.
Izzo said he's been in the state. He's been in Indiana.
Well, Chris Holtman a few years ago at Ohio State was upset by this. Like there can be, you can be that aloof. I'm not saying you should know, and frankly, Michigan State, when they're going to do this, should let somebody on the opposing staff know as well. Like you should just say, hey, at the end of the game, because sometimes it doesn't feel great when you're getting your ass kicked. To have people take all this time to get off the court and do this stuff. You say, at the end of the game, we do this, just so you know. It's not, you know. And maybe they, I don't know. But that should be something that's probably done as well. I don't believe Michigan because they have not given, as a school, not Dusty May, not the 47 new transfers who are a new part of the program, all these guys who may not have this ingrained in them. But as a school, as an athletic department, the relationship with Michigan State, dating back to the Mark D'Antonio eras, dating back to Juwan or Jalen Rose and those guys wiping their ass on the S, which started this whole thing years ago, they don't get the benefit of the doubt. And so if there is a great explanation that's just missed against all circumstances, then that should be explained. I don't think they're going to. I don't think because I don't think – and I also don't think it's like what happened at the end helped Michigan State. Mm-hmm. It made the game feel like more of an emphatic beatdown when in the reality is the first half was unbelievable. It was on track to be like one of those record games, and the second half got a little dicey for a moment, and then they closed it out and they won, and people were happy enough. But the end made everybody back on the bandwagon of hell yeah, Trey Holloman,
because of Trey. That's why the end. If Trey didn't end up doing that, I think Michigan State fans would be even more furious, especially with Dusty May's reaction. At least Trey Holloman felt like he was representing most of us and how we felt in that moment, and thankfully that happened.
I mean, I think Michigan State fans are upset, and I get why, and especially in football, when you get your ass kicked and things get go this way, you're upset. In basketball, this is the best thing that happened for you. I mean, you beat Michigan twice. You took the Big Ten title from them. You won it by 3 games. Mm-hmm. You beat them on their home court. You mostly kicked their ass on your home court. And then when they wouldn't get out of the way, your badass, Avon Barksdale himself from The Wire, shows up and shoves the heck out of those guys and gets them out of there and does Trey Holloman things. And everybody's thrilled and excited, and the bravado and everybody's galvanized. Like, that's the best thing that could have happened at the end of that game for Michigan State. 100%.
So did the Michigan coaching staff send those 2 kids who they're not on the court often and apparently don't know the senior night tradition, were sent out to mid-court?
Here's the other problem with not having open locker rooms, too, is you do not get the benefit of the doubt in my book. Like, if you're going to be, and most programs don't. Michigan State is one of the rare. Like, if Michigan State did this on their end, their guys would be available in the locker room. If this was, Kurt Tang out there who was standing at Michigan Center Court, Kurt Tang would be available and would have to explain it. I mean, Miles Bridges was under fire from the NCAA over his, over an agent payment, and at Wisconsin, he sat there in the locker room and talked to us for 20 minutes about it, right? Like, that's what this program does to their benefit. And when you don't do that, when you hide grown adults, grown people who are of their own free will, are not allowed to talk to the media, when things are as shut off as they are in most of these college programs, what looks like it is what is, unless you explain it otherwise. You do not get the benefit of the doubt. That is one of the things, and every program should know that. When you want to have this closed paranoia, then what we see, what I see, what we all assume is what is until you explain it otherwise. Make your people available, or I got zero sympathy for you. But I don't think it's that big a deal, and
no.
But I also think
in the grand scheme of things, no, it's just another thing to add on to it.
Correct, and it's the best thing that could have happened to Michigan State yesterday, other than winning the way they did, because of how it galvanized people at the end and it made people feel. And it happened after a win. So many of these things recently with Michigan have happened after a loss. So from that standpoint, I would try to think of it that way if you're Michigan State.
And to be honest, I kind of like seeing it because as far as sportsmanship, I enjoy the sportsmanship of it. But you do need these kind of things
100%.
in a rivalry. In football, we've got away from that where we almost wanted the rivalry to kind of go away. And I see something like that, I get more amped up and fired up about it. I watch Isaiah Stewart do it with Steph Curry the other night with the Pistons. I love seeing that kind of intensity from your players, especially when they know they're being wrong. And obviously, Michigan, I feel that they knew what they were doing in that situation. It's fine just to, if you want to bring, let's go again.
The thing
doesn't
is,
matter.
You kind of got to own it. Like to me, I respect the pettiness. I do. Like I could see myself in a game doing that at somebody out and then be like, fuck these guys. I'm just going to stand here. But then you can't run from it. You have to say, you know what, I don't like screw their,
Yeah, but put two starters out there then. Don't put two guys that just walk-on dudes that have no idea what they're doing or why they're out there.
They're not walking, but they're young. Yeah,
two guys that got beat by 13, put those MFers out there, and then you do it. If that's how you want to do it, that's fine.
Put Danny Wolf out there.
Right.
Right.
I just don't understand why I do, because I almost respect when Harbaugh was at Michigan, what are you talking about? Just not, until you see video of you, whatever they're accusing you of doing, just lie and say you don't have any idea what anyone's talking about. But in that instance yesterday, it was just like, really? But you have no idea.
It goes back to Khalil Mullings in Michigan. Like, they don't get the benefit of the doubt for that. I mean, they have to understand that at this point. They don't make him available. I reached out to him separately. I don't hear from him. Like, that's
sure.
You don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. And so people go, for a while I was still getting like tweets from people that say, apologize, Graham, apologize. Like, first of all, if this is the biggest thing in your life that you're thinking, I got to get that writer to apologize. Yeah, just go ahead and,
Twitter never shut down, please.
Man, unbelievable. Yeah. But yeah, you don't get the benefit of the doubt if you're Michigan. And that may not, there is a small chance that this is completely explainable. And if you're Dusty May and you don't want to be part of that Michigan culture that has done this to Michigan State and has created this, then you should explain it. If you don't care or you want to be part of it, then leave it be.
He was almost halfway there. He just said it was too long, right? Like he was kind of going that way. And it's like, if you want to say that, I could totally understand that. And like Ant Wright said, he only knew his own team's schedule. I can understand not knowing everybody's senior night kind of festivities and what exactly they do, but you had to know that there was something coming for the seniors, right? Izzo didn't talk to him prior to I don't know. I feel like Izzo or someone would let someone know what was going to go down.
Yeah.
Right? Just not all of a sudden slam you with all of a sudden seniors kiss the Spartan S.
Well, it won't be something that it's funny. Solari brought up a good point. He said, it won't be something that the Big Ten takes away. The Big Ten could say, oh, there's no handshake lines or there's no kiss, because the Big Ten just did a documentary on this. They spent a full day interviewing me at my house. And
really?
Yeah. I'm barely in it because I didn't know. I kept trying to tell them I'm not really the right person for this. I wasn't covering the team when Respert was around. I mean, I remember it, right?
Wow, way to sell yourself.
I wasn't around.
I probably left there going like, man, we were there all day. This guy just tried talking us out and not putting him in it.
No, I told them that a million times before they set up to come all day. I was like, you guys, they're better people for this. And they still came and spent the day there. We're at a muskox that day, by the way.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good day.
So how long were they? They were there all day long, and they only used you for like 30 seconds?
I thought, it's a major production. I thought they were coming over with like a handheld camera, and we're going to do this for like 10 minutes. They come in, the TV setup, it looked like we were going to set up the set of like Friends or Seinfeld or something. I was like, holy crap. My wife comes downstairs from working upstairs, and there are just like television lights everywhere. Like it's Everybody Loves Raymond all over. It's...
You're not putting up another TV, are you? It's got to be impressive for the wife to see, though,
Yeah.
And I know you're probably just walking around all self-deprecating. Like, you guys sure you need all this stuff for me?
Well, then they put
the ugly white guy.
The heat lamps on. I'm like sweating, and I'm like, I look awful. I'm trying to dab I got 7 chins, and I'm
what a disaster.
Pasty. It was a total disaster. That's why they didn't use that much of me, because when they looked at the footage, they're like, boy, even Solari and Ebling look better than this guy.
Yeah.
So that's that. Do you have another?
I don't think so.
Okay, I have more. All
right.
So I do think that what happened yesterday was really good for Jonathan Smith. He was there, saw him before the game, there with his family, and he was there at the celebration afterwards when Holloman went down and kissed the floor when Izzo had him do that, which was interesting. He saw all that front and center. And for a guy, and Dusty may have gone through this as well yesterday, for a guy who, had a rough indoctrination to the rivalry last year and sort of admitted that he didn't quite get it until you go through it. To then see it in that intensity with more shoving and pushing and in another sport, and how Izzo handles it and how much he cares and how much the fan base is in there, because he was at a lot of basketball games this year, and I guarantee he realized that crowd felt different Sunday than it had. I mean, the crowd's been good all year, but that was
You said Breslin sounded different, right? I mean, I couldn't really tell the TV.
The first half was just, it was one of those deafening things. And there have been other moments of that, but it was sustained. And it was really a really good crowd. It's been a good crowd all year, but it was a really good crowd. It was noticeable. And so I think Jonathan Smith just being around that, soaking up, feeling that, can't hurt. It cannot hurt for his understanding of what this means to people. And I think that's when you come in from outside and how important that is when you're trying, because how you do in that rivalry. Izzo knows it. Dusty May's probably going to figure it out, although people at Michigan care a lot less about basketball. But as we saw with they were playing for a Big Ten title the other night, and the place was like half full at Chrysler. That's not, like, if you want to keep your coach from going to Indiana, by the way, that's not how you do it. Like, if I were him, I'm sitting around there going, boy, this is not a basketball school. This is a big game late in the year. And I know the students are on break, but that's not it. I don't know that I wouldn't be interested in something different. But if how you are judged at Michigan State is largely starts with that rivalry, and I think Jonathan Smith probably has a decent feel for that. But yesterday,
I'd like to know what Smith thought about it after the post game. I'm sure Fred Heumann was all up in everybody's area and asking. I saw him talking to pretty much everybody, right? Because, I mean, that is something that you see that you go, makes sense now. I get this rivalry. Makes a little bit more sense after that.
I got one more.
All right.
So I have an all-conference vote again. I didn't for a little while. You get 2 on every beat, and Kyle Austin and Solari had it. And then Kyle left the beat, and I just realized a few days ago that I have it. And so, but I was kind of excited. It was fun to do. I don't want to put together a weekly poll, but
why not? The couch poll.
Well, no, because it's a lot of work. But at the end of the season, I thought this would be fun, going through and putting together the all-conference teams, especially in an interesting year. It sucked. I hated it. And the reason it wasn't fun is because so many of the players that were like 2 weeks ago on track to be in a good place, either player of the year, first team, freshman of the year, sort of scuffled down the stretch, didn't play as well. So, who's your player of the year when John Tanji at Wisconsin wasn't very good late, and then they lose to Penn State on senior day at home, and he wasn't very good, and he was great in the middle of the year, right? How does that affect things? Braden Smith was not great down the stretch. Jace Richardson, his last 9 games, averaging dang near 17 points and 5 rebounds and carrying Michigan State to a Big Ten title by 3 games when they go 8-1. Like, where does that fit? And then you get guys, you're like, well, some of these guys are on really bad teams. They shouldn't be in there. And yet Nick Martelli at Northwestern carried that team when that season should have fallen apart after Barnheiser went down. Like, he was really good. So it was a really difficult process, and you only have, think about this, 18 teams now, and there's still only 15 spots. So not every team even gets a player. And it was really difficult. I'll just let people know I did have, I think, and you do it 1 through 15, you order it, and that's how they do the calculations. So I had Jace Richardson, I believe, 6, would have been the top of my second team. So that's where he'll be on the calculation. Jaden Akins did not make it for me. I thought about it because defensively, I think he might belong. The problem is when you watch one team that much more than everybody else, I don't see a lot of other people's defense. Defense is harder to show up and prove. Tom Izzo was my coach of the year. I think that's, at this point, when you have a team that is not going to have a first teamer and you win the Big Ten by 3 games, I just don't think that's a question, especially the way Wisconsin faded at the end. Greg Gard would have been number 2. Anyway, the rest of that, I'll have a column out Tuesday. But it was a really difficult exercise. But Jace Richardson was my freshman of the year, and top guy on second team All Big Ten. Tom Izzo was my.
So who alerted you that you actually you had to do it and fill in for Kyle?
I just got an email that said, "Yeah, you turn your back." And somebody probably actually told me 4 months ago. I just had forgotten. Yeah. I just had forgotten. So that column will be out Tuesday when the all conference teams come out. Are you ready to dig into these listener hot takes?
Yes, let's do it, man. Eric Schultz up first, of course. Number 1, what an incredible regular season. 2, you can't play Xavier Booker unless it's to mitigate foul trouble. If I ever hear the words Booker and talented again in the same breath, I'm going to lose it. The kid can't play. Bad things happen when he's out there. He's lost. Sit him down. And 3, Couch has said some dumb stuff, but saying he didn't know if the Michigan players were standing at midcourt on purpose might be the dumbest of them all. Fiddler had just kissed the court, even if they hadn't known the tradition going in. They knew it was when the shove happened. Just an awful take, man.
Yeah, and I explained how this take happened. I don't think it's an awful take, but yes, it wasn't the greatest take. But I just didn't have all the information. Shouldn't have done the video. I mean, there's lots of stuff happening at the end of those games. Getting anything that happens in the final minute that then has to be shoehorned into the quick takes and delays them. I rarely see the opposing coach talk anyway. Hadn't seen all the other videos. It was just sort of what I had a sense of, and so I didn't have enough information. Should not have done a video. And that wouldn't have been out there. That's
But with the shove, you didn't think of man, maybe I should go see what Dusty May is saying, or no?
I had to finish the. Well,
just
the problem
curious.
is he's talking while Izzo is still talking out in the court. Senior days are really hard for that.
Gotcha.
And a lot of times, sometimes if I feel like I probably would have gotten in there otherwise and finished the quick takes in there. Usually I finish them outside.
As far as number 2, you want this?
Caution! You are about to enter the spin zone with noted newspaper columnist and radio host Graham Couch.
So it's yesterday is a really hard day to argue against this from Eric and with Xavier Booker, because he was in there, him being in there, he was with the group where things turned, the 14-0 run turned, and things went against Michigan State, right? It was not a good day for him. And he's had his moments this year where he's been good and he's been helpful. And he's had other situations when he hasn't, and that's why they've only played him in the first half of recent games. You try and keep him engaged, see what he can give you, and he's hit some big threes, but they haven't played him in the second half, and I think that speaks volumes, right? That's just what it is. I wouldn't give up on him, because when you watch him walk in there, the guy is still 6'11" with a pogo stick with a lot of skill. I wouldn't give up on the kid, but you're trying to win titles right now. You're trying to win a Big Ten title now. You're trying to win, an NCAA tournament, get to a Final Four. You got to play your best guys the most minutes. Now, the Big Ten tournament, a la the FA Cup,
start him.
Get
some starting minutes for Book.
Yeah, it truly is. I know the soccer takes get to be a bit much sometimes, but people, people who know the FA Cup know what I'm talking about here, or the EFL Cup, and the way the Premier League teams treat that is, early on they rotate a lot of guys. They don't really give a shit. If they wind up getting far in it, then they play their guys. Then it's all right, we're here. Let's do this. That's the Big Ten tournament. That is it. Especially if you win the regular season and you put everything into it, and you're locked into being a 2 seed. The Big Ten doesn't care enough to play it early enough to let the championship game have anything to do with the seeding in the NCAA brackets. I'm sorry, it's just not a tournament that has great meaning.
Dominic next. We're here again, Couch. Michigan being a bitch and pretending they are the victims. And then the beat goes on. Dusty May's reply was also hilariously on brand. You'll spin this into the love for alma mater, and everyone does it, but you know damn well this is a Michigan thing.
Yeah, obviously they don't get the benefit of the doubt, and that's what we talked about. It just.
But is Dusty May innocent in all of this thing? He's trying to act that he is.
I don't think so, but if he is, he should explain how it happened. Because there is a scenario where if you're Dusty May, straight from Florida Atlantic, who's walked into a school you may only be at for a year, that doesn't sell out a game when you're trying to play for a Big Ten title on a Wednesday night in February, that you're not as ingrained in the culture as everybody thinks. You're just wearing the uniform, you're coaching the team, and if that's the case, then you should speak up about that, because look, they've earned the reputation, and if you're Dusty May and you don't want to be part of that, then there was some circumstance that created this. Now, the problem if you're Dusty May, too, is you don't want to throw your players under the bus. And you don't want to look like you don't know what's happening. So if something else happened without you knowing, you're best to keep your mouth shut. That would be my other thing.
Like the assistants telling them to go stand out there?
Anything like that, yeah. Dominic probably had 2 more. It says 1 here, but Twitter was down when I was trying to, and I couldn't open up the previous 2. So, Dominic, I do greatly.
See, it happens to everyone.
Greatly
Jake Hawkins and
apologize.
David Jackson.
Yeah.
See?
It's not good, yeah.
Maybe next. MSU can't easily lose the first game in the Big Ten tournament. They are too diversified for a single player to take it easy and tank the game. Well, what do you mean by tank a game? I mean, it's hard to.
I know what she means here, though. Like the idea was Cassius Winston, for example, in 2019 looked disinterested against Ohio State, and then Foster Loyer hit the 4 3-pointers, right, and they won, and then they were stuck, and then they beat Michigan in the final, and so it wound up being a good run. And when they were going to play Michigan, they had to really play. Jace Richardson is enough of a big time dude that, you know, if he doesn't play well, or if he was disinterested, I think he will be. I mean, he's a freshman who's loving this run, who's playing well. He's going to be all in. These guys are, and this team, I think, is going to struggle to take their foot off the gas. However, that said, you cannot fake desperation, and you can't fake hunger. Like it's the littlest things. And when you're a team that doesn't have, you know, 3 all-conference guys, you don't have guys who just overwhelm you on their own, that will matter. And there will be teams that care more about getting it done there. There might be teams that don't, but like I really think if they play Oregon, that's trouble. Oregon gave them fits in the first half. Obviously, Jace Richardson went off in the second half. Oregon has been traipsing the country with the West Coast schools. Now all of a sudden it's like, hey, we get to park ourselves in Indianapolis for a few days and play like everybody else. Let's do this. Let's show what we can do. I think UCLA is tough, but Oregon and both of those are on Michigan State's side of the bracket. If Michigan State plays Indiana, I can see them, after what happened at Breslin Center with Indiana and how that day made everybody feel, I can see them having a real chip on their shoulder to beat them. But and they may show up, and there have been years where I thought Michigan State wasn't going to care and show up, and they've won the whole dang thing. But what they set out to do, they've done. They set out to win the Big Ten title, and they've done it.
But they are looking to shoot better. And could they use the Big Ten tournament, maybe be in a relaxed setting where you've already won the Big Ten championship, you're going to the big dance, you did everything, you won it by 3 games. What's the last thing you need to get done before you go into March Madness?
No doubt.
Start shooting the ball well.
If like Jaden Akins gets going and starts hitting threes, right, and he's hit more, he's just hasn't been that efficient, but he's hit 3 in each of the last 3 games. But if he starts hitting at a higher clip, then that's totally worth it.
Kohler hits 2 threes, starts getting some confidence.
Absolutely, there are things you can get out of it. Now, if you
so I don't know if I look at the Big Ten tournament as a complete kind of just like whatever.
Well, but if you play 3 hard games in 3 days and hit a lot of shots, then don't have legs the next Thursday when you play, not so good. The problem with the Big Ten tournament to me has always been just people who think too much of it, and the ACC has this. The ACC just wasted 2 fucking months. The ACC played 2 months of basketball that didn't matter because their championships decided by the tournament. What a waste of life. You're conditioning all summer. You're just playing these pointless games. Just every day is freaking pointless. That's what the ACC does until the ACC tournament. I don't understand that way of thinking. I'm glad the Big Ten doesn't do it. And it would be really hard to cover the Big Ten if they ever changed that and said, the Big Ten tournament is the title. Because then what are my quick takes? My third quick take will always be a reminder, this shit doesn't matter. Like what in January, who the cares? Like I don't know. And the fact that Michigan State's probably locked into a 2 seed, I think also makes this harder to say that this is a tournament that really means something to them.
TK next. Dusty May's press conference shows he's disingenuous and delusional enough to be a coach at that school. I had respect for him before that game, not anymore. #fraud. And from Sunshine Spartan, Dusty May was inducted into the Douchebag Hall of Fame with that press conference response.
If you have a Dusty May in your life, somebody who has just been inducted in the Douchebag Hall of Fame or seems disingenuous and delusional and just taking a lot of shit, I would highly recommend a Muskox flannel. It can make even the worst day better, and it can make anybody feel better. And Dusty May is not like I talked about Greg Gard not being an ugly man. Dusty May is a good-looking
so
individual.
your word means nothing.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
Greg Gard is an ugly guy.
Dusty May is a good-looking individual. You throw a muskox on that, you got a straight model right there, and I think it would change a lot of perceptions. So if you have that person in your life, or you just want to send Dusty May a muskox flannel, go to gomuskox.com and you use the promo code FIXITINPOST for $15 off your Dusty May flannel. Or just get one for yourself or your father-in-law, which is, I'm telling you right now, it is the best gift to get somebody you want to actually impress in your life. You can ask Jason about that.
It's the only time you ever talk to me.
Yeah, there you go. If you want somebody to talk to you who doesn't talk to you, go muskox.com and fix it in post.
Mitch Stewart next. MSU is so good that the odds of winning the Big Ten tournament on FanDuel are plus 260, and the odds are making a Final Four are plus 340. Wild.
Yeah, plus 340 is not good value. I'm not saying you shouldn't take. If you were going to take Michigan State to make a Final Four, I just hope you did it earlier because there was good value on them. Like at one point, they were plus 1,100 to win the Big Ten, and I know some people have cashed in on that. Yeah, winning the Big Ten plus 260 that's not good value either. It's just not. There's just a lot of good teams there. Like Oregon, UCLA. Like you have to look at it like this: for it to be value, there's more value in just betting Michigan State every game if you think they're going to win the Big Ten tournament and rolling it over, right? That's better value.
Money line, right?
Yeah, right. Michigan State money line to beat Oregon or Indiana, money line to beat like UCLA, and then money line to beat the final would pay a lot more than plus 260 on the outset. So stay away from the plus 260s on the Big Ten tournament.
Spartan 18770 next. The Spartans shouldn't play Friday's game. In 2019, rather than lose the first game of the Big Ten tournament, they won it all. Winston couldn't rest up, and Arns got injured and never played another minute. MSU was tired when they played Texas Tech, thus costing them a natty.
Yeah, they don't have this option, right? You gotta play the game, and you don't want to show up and look so piss poor that people change their perception of you. I do think they're locked into a 2 seed. They're going to play good enough teams, all tournament teams there. I just don't think there's any way they're going to fall off that 2 line. I do think people will forget about it by Sunday. So you got to show up and play it, but I just don't think the result matters.
Sunshine Spartans. Spartans will go as far as Jace Richardson goes.
There's some truth to this. I mean, is he ready to, if he has a really off game, they're in trouble. Although they do have, he wasn't great at Illinois. He was okay. And Jackson Kohler had a day. That where the strength in numbers comes in is you can survive a day where some guys aren't great if somebody unexpectedly goes off, right? And there's the potential for that. But overall, I mean, he's the guy. I mean, just yesterday or just Sunday against Michigan, you're talking about a guy who was, roll his ankle and then hit a 3-pointer that was pivotal from the corner like a few seconds later. I mean, he was, holding his back and then hit another shot. Like, there's something to him, and he made a couple passes yesterday. There was one right in front of me that I had no idea where he was going, and he was driving toward the rim, and then the whip around pass to Holloman for a 3-pointer was NBA stuff. He had another finish at the rim that was incredible too. I mean, just this weirdly angled layup in the first half that just nobody else on that team is going to come close to making. It's NBA stuff.
Spartan Johnny next. Trey Holloman is headed for the rafters. Book it, Oatmeal Boy. Thankful take. What a goddamn pleasure it's been watching this team. They did what Izzo teams used to do pre-D'Antonio. Helped us move past fall and allowed us to feel pride in our school. When our NFL teams lost, again, Izzo's squad had our mentals covered. Thank you, coach and team. Thank you, Graham, for the coverage. Now, a less sappy take. Fears needs an offseason for more than just his jumper. Dude brings the fire and passion and will and a great Spartan when all is said and done. But some of these turnovers can cost the team a Final Four. Take care of the rock, my man. Let's go.
Yeah, did you see at the end that Fears did not want another turnover? So Fears gives the ball to Kerr Tang for the final seconds when they're running out the clock because the shot clock is going to run out and they're going to give the ball back to Michigan with a few seconds left and they're not taking another shot. And
it's like an NBA savvy move.
Absolutely. Fears dribbling the ball out, and I thought at first, oh, that's nice. He gives the freshman a touch, and I'm like, no, he didn't want the turnover. That's fantastic.
That's smart. Lindsey Jean next. What is taking MSU so long to retire Cassius Winston's jersey? All-time assist leader in MSU and Big Ten history, and maybe the greatest point guard to play for State. With Trey making a name in his number 5 jersey, it seems strange that this hasn't happened already.
Well, a couple things. One, Cassius Winston is playing overseas right now, and so his season is going on. A lot of times these sort of ceremonies happen when there are, I think the whole thing with at Illinois with the upside-down jersey with Terrence Shannon happened because there was the All-Star break in the NBA, and he's playing for Minnesota. So you have to find time that these guys can do it.
So that's why it was upside down?
No, but I'm just saying Cassius Winston's number will be retired at some point, but maybe not before he's done playing professionally because he's going to be overseas during the MSU basketball season, probably completely for another 5 years. And I think there's been probably some of that. We'll see if that happens for Denzel Valentine too. Like these guys who have current careers and aren't around. I mean, it's just not as
Isn't it okay to let time pass though? Like,
100%.
you don't have to do it so soon.
Yeah,
right.
I think it's worse when you do it soon. I think it looks like you don't have enough greats to actually, like it's too easy to get up there. You know what I mean? To me,
Terrence Shannon. I mean, if you start throwing guys up like that, it's like.
I mean, he was a good player.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But yeah, it was, yeah.
Did they win a championship?
They got as far as they've ever been, or in a long time.
All right. Voice of Gotham softball next. I don't think he is Antonio Smith's equal, but I believe in the future when someone asks, what past Spartan do you want on this team? Trey will be an answer. And bonus, Jeff Kohler is the people's champion. When will he be on the pod?
I don't know. We can see what Jeff Kohler want to come on Wednesday. We'll ask Wednesday. Maybe Jeff Kohler can come on this Wednesday. I'll ask him and see when he wants to.
Hell yeah!
When he wants to.
The muskox flannel come in studio.
Yeah, I do think Trey Holloman has moved very quickly up the beloved Spartan after Iowa and this and the Zach Edey last year. I mean, he just looks like it.
Oh my God, that was so great.
Yeah, I mean, the real question now is: are you more afraid of Trey Holloman on an MSU basketball court or Avon Barksdale? In The Wire, I mean, that's. I think it's. If you haven't seen The Wire, too, like if you don't know the Avon Barksdale comparison,
just forget it.
No, he looks like Wood Harris. He's been in a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, no, but if you haven't watched it yet,
But just Google Wood Harris and then look at him, and you think you're looking at Trey Holloman. That's what I would say.
Eric Larson next. Booker was the first guy off the bench for the scrum, which may be a sign he's turning around.
He was engaged. He was happy as could be when they won a title. He was engaging with fans and other things yesterday. I think Booker cares. I think he doesn't have always great body language, and that's just, it's not a natural thing. But I think Booker does care. I think he just doesn't have some of the natural stuff in terms of tenacity that you need to be great at basketball if you're a big man.
I just feel bad for Booker sometimes because whenever anything happens, people probably look to him to see whatever his reaction is. Like, no matter whatever reaction you have, it can't appease everyone.
No, right.
Wild.
Right. And you're on display the whole time. You're a big guy that people are watching because they want to know. Like, if you're Booker, too, when you're not playing as much as – when you're Xavier Booker, you are this huge recruit who's not playing as much as people want. People are going to be looking at you to see what your response is when when you get taken out early or whatever. And so you're kind of always have to make sure your finger isn't up your nose,
Professor, number 1, no Cohen Carr lob dunks. Yesterday's game sucked. 2, Carson Cooper is putting together a great second half of the season. Matt Costello arc.
That's an interesting comparison. Costello was a little better earlier than Cooper, but, I mean, we remember Costello's senior year. And I remember early junior year Costello, I've never seen a hotter hot potato than Matt Costello getting the ball in the post as a junior. He did not want it. So that's a good question. I'd have to kind of look back and see that. Cooper's been really good. There's no question about it.
Ryan Schultz, Coop should get more credit for his conditioning. Yes, the team is deep, but he seems to consistently play extensive second half minutes and always gives solid play down the stretch while the other team wavers.
The thing I like about Carson Cooper's game is that he has a real understanding of who he is. Like, when does Carson Cooper ever take a shot he shouldn't take? And he also, when he doesn't not try to make the shots he should take, even when he's sometimes going to look like a goofball and miss him. You know what I mean? Like, you need him to try to finish at the rim even when it's over somebody. You need him to, even when things don't go well, he dusts himself off and he plays great defense on the other end. I think he's become you talk about improved players throughout a course of a season. Who he was at the beginning of this year, maybe it had a lot more to do with the broken nose than we realized. But beginning of this season to the end, he is he might be the guy. Other than, of course, I think Jace Richardson you'd have to go with, even though Richardson showed great signs of things like against Kansas, the consistency and the ability to put a team on his back, and maybe the opportunities creator. I think Jace still has to win that.
Craig Robinson next, big Freilich fan, but feels like the women's team is running on empty. Common during the later Merchant years. Also see Michigan gaining momentum with huge McDonald's All-American recruits in Olsen and Swords. Freilich needs to land some big fish to get past the first weekend of the NCAAs.
Yeah, I mean, she's got some okay recruits coming in from what I understand, too, some good recruits, but that is going to be the challenge for her is what level does she recruit? I think she is an unbelievable game coach and unbelievable getting the most out of teams she has and styles, and I think her staff, and they're really good at finding lineups and matchups, and we'll see if they get a resurgence here in the postseason. It's just there's no doubt they don't have they've got a little bit of a strength in numbers thing going themselves. They don't have Jace Richardson, and that's sort of what they're missing. If you picture Michigan State basketball without Jace Richardson, it's the MSU women's team.
Bleed Green next. In your time covering MSU, why do you think the women's program seems to be the opposite of the men? Usually start out well and competitive, then hardly ever make noise in March. They've had a few teams good enough to make a second weekend trip. How do they fix it?
Well, scheduling. Some of it's fool's gold because, I mean, this MSU team didn't play a very difficult schedule out of the gate. They didn't often at Susie Merchants later in the year. So you had these teams that had a lot of wins and beat up a lot of bad teams, and you still, to this day in women's basketball, don't quite have the parity you have in men's. So when there is a disparity in programs, it's a massive blowout, and it looks like a bigger win than it sometimes is. But I think how you fix it is just talent, and talent wins out. And the Big Ten just got a lot tougher, which is, USC and UCLA are the best two teams in the Big Ten. So more than any other sport that's really visible, the Big Ten got way, way tougher in women's basketball. So everything gets harder now. The league you thought you had to win is no longer the league you have to win. You've got to beat two top 5 programs, right? And that's really difficult. But yeah, you just got to recruit talent, and they have had a couple. The most famous of it is 2016 when they should have been at home, and the MHSA girls basketball tournament was at Breslin, and they've since fixed that, so that would never happen again. If the MSU women need the Breslin for the NCAA tournament, it will be theirs. And it sucks that that's that comparison because then the girls have to move in high school. But you just got to add talent. It's early in the tenure. The program had some good players. I think she's maximized them. Not overwhelming talent, and so we'll see what Robin Freilich can do here.
Richard Kane next. A passage from Graham's column. MSU hadn't won an outright Big Ten championship since 2018, or claimed any share of a Big Ten title since March 8th. 2020, a few days before the world shut down. The pandemic is finally over for MSU basketball. Now that's how a professional writer does it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Richard. Good job, buddy. Bonus, the Big Ten tournament should be optional. If a team thinks they'd be better off avoiding the physically taxing grind, they should be about to opt out and be replaced by those 3 scrubs.
So the problem with that is it really would take the meaning down of the Big Ten tournament. Like if teams
get rid of it.
Well, yeah, I mean if you have, it's not going to happen because there's money involved. But like if you have if all of a sudden the top teams weren't there, the title means even less. Like at least the Big Ten title is everybody's there. So if you win it, you've won some sort of Big Ten title. It's a tournament title and it's over 3 days, and some teams aren't as into it, but it's still something. I mean. I brought up the FA Cup comparison, and I'll tell you why. Like Liverpool, for example, which is going to win the Premier League going away, is already out of the FA Cup. They rotated a bunch, lost to a lower level side, and didn't give a shit. Right? That is this. That is entirely the Big Ten tournament. I don't think it's a necessary thing. I sometimes wish the Big Ten. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I like the Big Ten tournament, and there are years where it's been a great deal of fun. And I do think there are years where it has value. If you get 2 co-champs and they meet in the championship, that's great. I think it's valuable for teams that had injuries and didn't get to win a Big Ten title, but think they're the best team. And there will be a number of teams, for example, in this Big Ten tournament that want to make that statement. It doesn't take away the regular season champ's the Big Ten champ, but it is something tangible. And it's something for teams that improve late in the year. And it can be something that leads into momentum. Think about Michigan State in 2015 when that team got all the way to the final of the Big Ten tournament, losing to Wisconsin at the end, and then made the Final Four run. Like, it can be significant. It's just...
So do you like it, or I could go either way, or you don't like it?
I enjoy it. I enjoy it. What I think is important is people don't put too much meaning on it. That's what I would say. Right.
Jeff Woolner next. This has been the most enjoyable year since 2012, and there was a similar magic to that season too.
Yeah, that team was. I mean, it starts with a team having modest expectations, and that team with Draymond Green senior year, they lose to Duke in the first Champions Classic, and I wasn't quite. Started covering that team in January. That was the beginning of my time on the beat. But the stories I've heard is like they knew after that game against Duke in the Champions Classic, even though they lost a close game, they're like, "Hey, we're better than people think. We're actually okay." They knew it, and they wound up being a 1 seed, and Draymond was, obviously a lot of fun as a senior and a great player.
Travis Maynard, this has to be a first, but winning the Big Ten by 3 games without a player voted first or second team All Big Ten is crazy. How is that possible?
Well, we don't know yet if somebody's not going to be on the second team. Like I had Jace second team, and it truly is the strength of numbers thing. I think Jace Richardson belongs there. I think he's just done too much. And people won't say, "Oh, it happened late in the year." Well, 9 games is half the Big Ten season. And what are you judging? The full season? I judge Big Ten play. I do not care what you did against Arizona in November. Right? To me, it is what you did in the conference against the conference, because teams play different schedules, it's what you do over these 20 games is what determines it. And if you are as good as Jace Richardson has been over the last 9, you are the best player on the best team that wins the Big Ten by 3 games. You have to be first or second team. He was nearly first team for me. The league's, it's a really good year for, a really good year for freshmen. Or it's a really good year for a lot of good players. There isn't that obvious above everybody player, but you could put together a
TV for you this weekend.
Yeah, if not a story worth telling, but told anyway. Presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company. And if you have let down your significant other and just need a place to grab a beer or need a date night to make up for it, Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. Highly recommend. Unbelievable menu, great vibes, great beer. The American Stout is one of my absolute favorites. A good place to post up with a muskox flannel and enjoy.
What does the text say? Is it just kind of like, aha, I see that you didn't email? Like, is she really snarky?
No, it's a very kind text, but I can feel I can hear the disappointment through the text. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like
a parent,
It's just, it was, it was like the one thing she asked me to do when she went to bed last night, and I didn't do it because I got wrapped up in a Lansing Community College women's basketball story that the coach called late, and I did it. And I was up late, and you
have a good excuse at least.
Yeah, it's not great. She told me the last thing she said to me was, "If we can get this done, I can be the hero tomorrow on this call." And
wow.
All
right.
Yeah, not great.
Matt C. The Izzo is washed narrative is officially dead. This was a defensive masterpiece all year. You hear that, Tom? That should really be Tom's biggest achievement of 2025 is Mad C turning the corner. Bonus, throwing Michigan down a flight of stairs like Graham did that guy in Chicago will never get old. Go Green.
Okay, it wasn't Chicago. It was Kalamazoo. Well, it didn't happen,
and
period.
It was a gay guy.
It didn't happen, period. Right?
To be honest.
Yeah. But it also wasn't Chicago.
Oh.
But it didn't happen. So that doesn't sound great the way I just said that. But yeah.
So it did happen. It just didn't happen in Chicago.
It didn't happen.
Oh.
It did not happen. Yeah. Right.
Riley, what a blessing it was getting 4 years of Akins instead of Amani for 1 or 2. And bonus, really unfortunate these altercations keep occurring for Michigan over the years in multiple sports. Talk about bad luck.
I'm not talking about Michigan.
Look, it's let's do the Akins one.
Where is Amani Bates?
Yeah,
what's he doing?
In the G League, I think.
Is he G League? Okay.
Yeah, it's true. Like, first of all, almost always a 4-year guy who's productive over a 1-year guy is going to be better. And then Amani Bates wound up being kind of a disaster in college, and Akins wound up being a really good player.
Before you find all that stuff out, though, it is kind of fun to have a 5-star guy interested in the program.
For a minute, yeah. But,
not going to lie.
But this is the Cassius Winston thing. Like, one of the great recruits of all time is Cassius Winston. The guy you're looking for is the guy who's just not quite big enough or quick enough for the NBA, but it's going to be an unbelievable college player, right? That's what you're, or just something doesn't do quite as well. And frankly, I think a lot of people thought Jace Richardson was that. And he's got more bounce to him. He's got more, there's just something to him. There's a smoothness to everything. But I really, like, if you told me, and frankly, Jay said this Sunday. He said, if you told me in November that people would be chanting one more year for you, I never would have believed you. Like, I don't think he thought it was going to come this quick. I think he had faith in himself. I was talking to his mother yesterday, and they have. I do think this is going to be a difficult decision, not one that I mean, Izzo's going to want him to go. Izzo's going to say it that he needs to go, but I think that he is. I think he likes MSU, and you have to weigh a lot of things. Like, is this your moment with the NBA? Is this the most intriguing you're going to be? Where are you slated to go? What life do you want next year? Do you it'd still be a good team you come back to, and you get to be a star next year. I don't think it's an easy decision for him. But I also don't think he can make a wrong one for a couple reasons. One, I think he'll be good in the NBA whenever he goes, and he's the type of player who will be really nice as a complimentary piece next to, like, he'll make the star's life easier because of the type of player he is on the court. And he's also not a kid that needs basketball to succeed in life. Not just because his, dad made all sorts of money in the NBA. But what I mean is, when you talk to him, you get it. There are kids you talk to and you go, I hope that kid makes it big in athletics, because there's not a lot else upstairs. And then there are kids you talk to and you go, yeah, it'd be nice if they could live their dream. But that kid's going to be fine either way. And Jace Richardson's just one of those kids too. Beyond that, even from a basketball standpoint, outside of a huge injury, and he's had one scary injury already, I don't think he can make we need to hear this
top 5 list of guys that didn't have anything upstairs that you're rooting for.
Well, I mean, I think
maybe
people,
a July topic.
Yeah, I don't. That's kind of mean. I
don't
wanna,
it kind of is.
I don't want to do
As someone that has nothing upstairs, I kind of understand, though.
That's fair.
At least you got a shot at something.
Yeah. That's.
John, next. Before the game Sunday, I read an MLive headline that read, "Why no Long being in the Big Ten title race could benefit Michigan." Now, that was a true work of art. The coverage of Sunday's incident was quite balanced, and some actually called out Michigan's curtain.
Sorry, I meant no longer. I rewrote these entirely. I was typing furiously because of Elon's gaffe.
Why no long bean? Wasn't that?
It was longer. Why no longer?
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't say long in my defense.
He didn't. What I'm saying is, John, usually I copy and paste these and edit them. I was furiously typing some of these because, he doesn't know what he's doing. And so it's, anyway.
Why no long being in the, okay.
But the point is, I actually don't think, I get the point of that article. Like, they were quoted as saying they were feeling the pressure. And sometimes when you've lost everything, it's just a reset. It's like, well, we blew that, and now what is there? And we blew that, and, not only that, our fans didn't show up and give a shit. So, that actually should have taken the pressure off. The fact, if you show up for a home game and, it's like 25% of the building is empty and you're playing for a Big Ten championship, there is no pressure because it's only internal, because nobody else there gives a shit, apparently.
Equal man next. Bake take. The Michigan players at midcourt thought that was a good rebounding position, which confirms why they suck at rebounding and are as soft as Graham's belly during a Hallmark film festival.
See, here's a missed opportunity. As soft as a muskox flannel would have been the way to go here. But
your belly works, too.
Belly is soft. Yeah, it's fair. It's a fair point.
David Jackson. Dusty May's line at his press conference just made it very unlikely that Jackson Richardson ends up at Michigan. He also guaranteed a career winning percentage versus MSU of 20% or less.
He did stoke the rivalry. Now, this is one of those things where you just got to have the better team usually to win it. And so as long as he has better players, the better team, he'll be fine. And I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying, like, that's usually what matters. And he probably stoked it from the Michigan side, too. I still don't know if Dusty May is going to be around. Everybody acts like that's a sure thing. I know he signed a contract extension. It would be very interesting. People have reported like there's no chance he'd wind up at Indiana. Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't know.
No chance though.
Well, he did sign a big deal.
Indiana comes heavy. Well,
yeah, he did sign a big deal. I mean, if he was available, he would be Indiana's first choice, I think, without question.
Chuck Fish next. Dusty May was an assistant at Indiana. He knows damn well what the MSU tradition is. Michigan is ass.
Well, hold on one second. Give me 1 second. Give me some Hoff.
I am the passenger.
Come on.
And I ride and I ride.
So yeah, he was a graduate. He finished Indiana in 2000, and he was a student manager. And so Michigan State, Sean Resper did it in 95, and then they did not do it again until 2000 with Mateen Cleaves and those guys. And then he was at Eastern Michigan when I was covering the MAC, Murray State, UAB, Louisiana Tech, Florida Atlantic. He does not have any history of that game, of that rivalry since the early since he was a student manager. So I the idea that he comes.
Does anyone know what Indiana does on senior day?
Right?
Like I don't know what other schools kind of do. I've grown up on the senior tradition at Michigan State. I'm not saying that he should and Dusty May should not know, but
yeah,
a lot of people know what other schools do.
Yeah, it's a good because and that's the thing. The Michigan State fans know what else. And again, you're the opposing coach, and and this is something that's well known. So maybe, but I don't know that. I don't think Chris Holtmann knew it when it happened. A couple of years ago. I don't know that people pay as much attention to this as Michigan State fans do. Again, I'm not saying he didn't know, and I'm saying that program and that school does not get the benefit of the doubt. Right? That's not who they are anymore. And if there is a situation and it's explainable, and you could see us, We've all done things in our lives. Jason, you have to have done something in your life that was an honest fuck up that you thought that everybody thought, God, that guy, he did that intentionally. Well, is there anything you can think of where you just honestly screwed something up so badly?
Man, it's tough. I didn't know I was going to be called out here. Not off the top of my head. I've screwed up so many things that people thought that I did something that I actually didn't do.
So intentionally. Like you got blamed for something that you're like, I actually didn't have anything. I didn't mean to do that. That wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry.
Right.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to be called up on the carpet here.
I was trying to find a story worth telling presented by Midtown Brewing Company. But anyways, again, I think there was some. Yeah, I think the guys knew what was going on, and if they're not, and they want to be clear, they should explain themselves because again. If you don't make guys available and you don't explain it based on the history, you get presumed guilty there, and that's just what it is. It's not the biggest sin, and I'm not saying I would have done it if I were Michigan. I think I would have owned it though.
C-Dubs 91 hungover take. The Breslin Center was absolutely rocking Sunday. Best crowd I've ever heard there. If fans bring that energy every game. It turns into the best place in the country. Let's make it happen. And from T-Bone's dad, I was in the I-Zone in 2000 when we left games hoarse. I've been a get-off-my-lawn guy toward the I-Zone at times as a season ticket holder. Way to effing bring it yesterday, you plucky Zoomers. You made a middle-aged Spartan proud.
Yeah, I've given, the I-Zone a little bit of shit just because it's
they're too white.
Well, that's still there. That's a big problem. It's embarrassing. It's freaking embarrassing.
Says the guy that works at the LSJ.
I'm not saying the media contingent is all that diverse either. There's some embarrassing times there too. Don't get me wrong. I'm humiliated daily being around the whole situation. I mean, there are times it's
shaking your head.
Just like
too many white people here.
It's like 17 white dudes who all look identical, who haven't showered in months, looking around, standing around a black athlete. And it's like, speak to us. And then you go to the I-Zone and it's like 3,000 white folks standing around, it's just like, oh my God. I just wish it looked a little.
You think way too much, man.
Sorry.
You really do.
It just drives me nuts. It's a little, it's not great. It's not great at all.
Alan Pearlstein next. Everybody should be remembered 67 years after their death by their name and nickname, like Ward Piggy Lambert.
67 years after your death, are you still known as the Rube?
I would hope so.
I hope you're known 67 years after
that would be great too, but yeah, I would definitely have one of those names. Oh yeah, you don't see the game, so there was some graphic where they had a couple of the older coaches, I believe.
Okay.
Their nicknames were on it.
Yeah. 67.
Mud Stomp and like Piggy.
Those are
Back when
good
you
names.
had cool nicknames.
Those are great nicknames.
I don't think Rube's going to make it, but Piggy will make you think.
Well, that'll be like, 69 years from now? Let's see if you're... No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, is there some sort of podcast record I can be a hold of, 1,000 shows? G.E. Miller next. Toss out the stupid net rankings that favor the SEC. Winning the Big Ten by 3 games and having the second most quad 1 wins is worth of the third number 1 seed behind Duke and Auburn.
I'd have to look at this more. I mean, it seems pretty presumed that Michigan State's going to wind up with a 2 seed. But that's me reading like the bracket matrix stuff and who everybody's got, and it's not me doing my own analysis, to be fair. And there is an argument, and sometimes this happens where a league becomes loved by the metrics. Not Michigan State. The Big Ten was a few years ago with Kofi
Cockburn.
Thank you, and Luka Garza and those guys. And they all flamed out. Like, all of a sudden, it turned out having a lumbering 7-footer just didn't do you all that much good in the postseason. But that Big Ten was really well loved by the metrics. You can have something that the one problem with college basketball in the metrics is that you play this non-conference season, which sort of determines who you are. And then you play 2 months within a conference with less ability to move as a league entirely. And that is, that's where this thing you can get these things wrong. So maybe people will be surprised. Michigan State rarely has been surprised that way. Usually it's been people thought they'd be a 1, they wind up being a 2, but we'll see.
Jordan Villarreal next. I thought the rivalry was cooling a bit this past year or so, but Dusty May just reminded me why I can't stand that school down the road. And Bait, it's not the slow people getting off planes. It's the ones who lay their seat back that should run into a fist. I don't even do that on Atlantic flights.
But you got to be able to recline, right? Do you not recline on a plane?
0 times. Never.
Really?
No. I wouldn't want people to recline in front of me, so therefore, I'm telling you, man, when I fly, I get in there, the MGs are flowing, I make sure I pee before. I don't want to get up to bother anybody. Just, yeah. I don't move the seat back.
I do think Pure Options should have a deal with, like, airline companies. Because if you got it, they come by and they pass out headphones. Yeah. If they also passed out edibles, if Pure Options came by and you got like 20 mgs, 40 mgs, the flight would be better. Everybody would enjoy it better. Everybody would be nicer to each other. You'd be less annoyed by the people around you. It would be a way better go.
It would also work on just not flights, not just flights. You could do it at pretty much anywhere. Just hand people an edible and
yeah. No. And if you're
calm
getting
anybody down.
Yeah, no. If you're getting tense, I don't know, tense is the wrong word, but if you're getting anxious about the NCAA tournament or any of this stuff, or just looking to be your best self and enjoy March as best you can, go to pureoptions.com. Swing by any of their locations. Lake Lansing Road. Sorry, that's Groovy Donuts. Sorry.
They're off Coolidge and Lake Lansing.
They are, but they are, absolutely.
Kind of.
3 in the Lansing area. Yeah. Also in Muskegon, Mount Pleasant, and Detroit. And you can just download their app. That's the easiest way. Have it right on your phone. Join their Pure Perks loyalty program. Some great deals coming up we'll get into later this week and next week with Pure Options and March Madness as well.
So wait, so you recline then?
Sometimes.
I could understand on if it's a flight over 4 hours.
Right, long flight, I'm reclining.
Sure.
But I expect the person
have a
in front of
problem
me.
with
Like if I'm flying overseas or I'm flying across the country, and I expect the person in front of me to recline too. It does suck if you're really cramped on a small flight and you're trying to work and the person then you got your laptop like right into your chest and
but when you see that person recline though, you go, man, this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, come on. You do have to say that in your head though.
I think time of day matters too. Like if it's anything overnight, I think 100% people should be expected to recline.
Rich Searing next. Number 1, of all the 1 seeds we may face, I'm hoping we are opposite Duke. I think we could play well versus Florida or Bama. Not sure about Auburn. And 2, I'm tired of the disrespect, Graham. This has been too much for too long. I know it's worse with football, but Michigan constantly pulls shit. We defend ourselves, and then we're the ones called thugs. It's starting to take the fun out of this rivalry. That's why I love D'Antonio, and I love Izzo. They stick up for us. I had respect for Dusty May until I heard his response afterward. Very weak excuse for his part.
Yeah, let's see where it goes from here. I mean, he should have been better. But
what could he come out and say now that would make you go like, oh, okay?
Well, so here's the other thing that happens with the senior day. I talked about me not being in the post game. Like there were no Michigan people covering Michigan State, I would venture a guess, in the post game press conference for Dusty May because everybody was on the floor. They were interviewing on the floor. The whole setup doesn't work for that situation.
I'm not talking about Michigan.
Yeah. Both of those work. Yeah. So, I'm not willing to I don't think he handled this perfectly, obviously, and I don't think Michigan gets the benefit of the doubt on this. But I'm not willing to shit on who Dusty May is long term or character wise, just on one. Otherwise, I mean, the amount of times that like Harbaugh got to a point, and I think with me, it's always got to be a personal thing where if you look through somebody or you disregard their presence, I can't stand you. I've never seen that from Dusty May.
Chris, next. In every major sport in the past year, football, hockey, and now basketball, Michigan has had players start a fight with their rivals. At a certain point, it's the culture of the athletic department and their fan base for enabling this behavior. Happy that MSU holds players accountable for their actions. Yeah,
I don't. Again, what I got 14 new players, new staff, a fan base that doesn't really turn out for basketball. So how would they even know? I don't know how much it's all. Again, I don't know what happened. I get why it looks all connected. But man, and maybe it is. Maybe it is. They don't get the benefit of the doubt. It's just this is a new coach, new team situation, trying to adjust to the rivalry. I don't know that anything had anything to do with the other. But again, they don't get the benefit of the doubt.
Matt, next. The last home football game venue debate is so annoying. Put a good product on the field and people will be at Spartan Stadium, plain and simple. When you only win one more game than Mel Tucker and get blown out by Rutgers, don't wonder why people aren't thrilled to attend.
Yeah, we don't have enough time for all of that.
It is true that if you're winning, people will be there. But Michigan State has had some crowds that weren't great there in decent years, and it puts a lot of pressure on you to win, right? And I just think that last year, given that if there was going to be a complaint about the Ford Field experience in 2023 other than the outcome, that last year was the moment to show up and say, look, we'd prefer to be here. This game is important to us. And it was the worst home crowd I can remember. And that, to me, just says, this is not that important to people that it's here. That's all. I mean, that's the moment to, and I understand it is important to some people, and a lot of people would prefer to have it there. But I think the majority would rather be. I think it is a majority that would rather be at.
I mean, you watch a soccer game outside that horrible weather. Would you want to be out there? I know you get to sit up in your perch in the.
I would. I'm just different that way. I mean, I don't go to these games anymore, but I would go to soccer game in bad weather. I enjoy certain sports in bad weather. I hate baseball in bad weather. Like April baseball, zero interest because it's supposed to be a warm weather sport. Football and soccer, I can handle. Like you dress for it, and you. But you talk to people. That was a miserable day too. I mean, I just get it. I just think if you were to poll Michigan State fans right now, and maybe this is a poll to send out at some point, but I think the majority, and in this country we call it a mandate apparently, is would choose Ford Field.
Detroit Spartan next. Someone on Michigan staff told the Michigan players to stand at center court. I believe him.
Could have happened.
I believe Detroit Spartan.
Yep.
Sparty in Chicago, longtime listener. Really appreciate you both for putting out great shows every week. Hot take. Izzo has been re-energized by guys like Jeremy Fears and Trey Holloman, being an extension of him on the court, and will get his second national title within the next 2 years. And bonus bake take, I heard Dusty May has a micro penis. Sparty in Chicago. Believe that.
Yeah, that seems intense.
Really good penis.
Yeah. We appreciate you for listening, by the way, Sparty in Chicago. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if he'll get a second national title, but I do think he enjoys this team. He's enjoying coaching, and he talked yesterday like, I'll be around as long as my mother, my mother's 99, I'll be around that long or whatever, another 9 years, even more, whatever.
That would be awesome.
It just sounds like he's not ready to finish. I think that'll, at his age, you never know when that could change in a hurry, but I just think he's, it could be a bit.
Shep next, Wojo's Monday column. For the 27th time, Michigan athletics are the guy that talks shit and pretends to try to be struggling to get away from the bouncer once the situation has diffused, and it's clear they won't actually have to fight. Their entire culture is start shit and then play the victim. Entire university is softer than baby shit. As an alum, I would be fucking embarrassed if MSU acted like this. I'm guessing the fact that 99% of fans couldn't find the Michigan library with Waze is related to their collective blind spot about how pathetic they are. Gift card winner.
I didn't read what Wojo wrote today. He was there yesterday, so I'll have to check that out. I've not had time to see it yet. Yeah, look, this is the reputation they create, and so I understand why fans feel this way. And if you're Michigan and it bothers you that your rival feels this way about you, then you explain it. And if it doesn't bother you, which I don't know that it does, then you don't. And that's just how it is.
Keith Ski next. Best take with seriousness after Dusty May stammers through a response like a kid caught passing notes in class about MSU's traditions. A reporter should follow up by saying, your answer felt disingenuous. Fuck me. And Fiddler had just done the routine. You wanted to strike with that. The world would be better. And bonus take, Fears seems unplayable. Holloman may have less, but his offense is 5 miles ahead.
Look, there are things that Fears does better than Holloman offensively in terms of pushing the ball and even getting to the basket in certain ways. I don't think Fears is unplayable. I think Fears has moments where he does things that are turnover-wise, or he gets stuck in. And
he's good at talking shit, which I enjoy.
But so is Holloman. I think both those guys. Yeah. Right? No,
but I like to see Fears out there and kind of talking shit, and
I think they found a pretty good balance at this point with those guys.
MCV, if Izzo finds a way to win it all this year, it will throw a major wrench into how the transfer portal and NIL value is perceived in college basketball. And bonus, Zizman Zapawa looks like the happiest person ever to be wearing an MSU jersey.
He does seem happy out there.
Do we owe him an apology for saying Zapala all of these months?
No, because it's an L. I'm sorry.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Cockburn, Zapala,
right.
I see it, I say it.
I've told you forever. My name is Tyrone Couch, but it's spelled Graham. At a certain point, you right.
Sorry, I had to get that.
At a certain point, you are what the letter says, right? Otherwise, but yeah, no, we got that wrong. I think part of the problem is figuring out how to pronounce his first name was such a stressful experience that we didn't worry about the last name. He seems very happy. He's engaged. He's engaged to be married, not just engaged in the situation. Yeah.
So he's going to be unhappy soon.
So yeah, he should get his happiness in.
All
right. Well done, sir.
Oh God,
Therese, you listening? Yeah.
Gave myself one. Joey Sparty, big take. MSU understands the bracket is set and prioritizes rest this week. Look for a second half lineup of Nick Saunders, Kurt Tang, Garrick Norman, Cohen Carr, and Xavier Booker. And from JB, Xavier Booker should play double his minutes in the Big Ten tournament. Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know how much you want to actually.
You don't want to tire the guy out. Why give him double the minutes?
Well, you don't want to just change what you're doing too entirely. Maybe
it's not an exhibition.
Yeah, right. And Izzo's not going to say it is. He's going to say they care. I'm not saying they don't care. What I'm saying is you can't fake the hunger and desperation that you played with during the last 8 games. It's just going to be different. It doesn't mean they won't win it. Doesn't mean they won't get on a roll. Doesn't mean they don't care. But it is just different, and that is something that absolutely matters. It's why like a mid-major conference tournament is so much better. When there's like one bid on the line and everybody is playing for their season, those are the best tournaments. You just don't get that at the Big Ten for sure.
Mr. Benjen, next. It's time for the Emperor with no clothes to fall. That program gets away with so much. Tunnel fights, ground stabbings in Spartan Stadium, muggings on the ice, and now defending their rival's logo from themselves. That's not touching the off-court stuff, Bo, Anderson, Stallions, etc. Their arrogance and holier-than-thou entitled behavior is what makes them despicable human beings. They are the dirtiest athletic program alongside the Baylors of the world. Fuck them internally. Sorry, Jason. And 2, 60 MGs. Fuck yes, Spartans all the way. Woo. Woo.
I think, yes, there's no doubt that Mr. Benjen has discovered pure options. This is, yeah. Look, MSU fans, I understand why you feel the way you do. I think we've covered this pretty well.
Money bag. Michigan fans would surely be cool with it if our football team stood under their Walmart banner and our coach said, "What? Didn't know there was a tradition where we can't be on a football field at a football game."
Yeah. You know, it is interesting. What's so interesting about the rivalry, though, is that Izzo is still around because, you know, he hated recruiting against Michigan when they were cheating in the 80s, and he was an assistant, right? And then in the early 90s, he thought he'd get to Chris Webber. Chris Webber winds up going the Fab Five. The Fab Five does that thing where, you know, it's the asses on the Spartan. That leads organically Sean Respert. The reason Sean Respert, I think because he's not part of the Izzo era, gets left out a little bit, but of a certain age, like one of the most beloved guys around. And that his kiss of the Spartan S when he checked out after that, they beat Wisconsin and Michael Finley pretty big that senior day, is one of those great moments in MSU history. And then Cleves to do it those years later. And for a while, it was like one of those things you just did if you were a great player. But I just think the Izzo history with Michigan is what, you know, it's important if you want a good rivalry, because you look at Jonathan Smith, who comes from Oregon, who doesn't have a feel for it. You look at Dusty May, who comes from FAU and has been everywhere but the Big Ten as a coach, who's not going to have a feel for it. Like, if you just change coaches too much and you're changing rosters, how do these things exist if the people on the court don't feel them? And I think one of the things that we're lucky in that rivalry is that Izzo feels it, and that helps keep it alive on both sides and create these moments.
Max next. Possible improvement to the Big Ten tournament. Why couldn't the regular season champion get a bye all the way to the championship game? Give the second-place team a bye to the semis. The bracket would feed into the semis where the second-place team would be waiting. The top teams usually are not interested in playing multiple games. This would allow them to stay fresh while playing a meaningful warm-up before the NCAA play starts.
So, the problem with this is if you care about the Big Ten tournament and who wins it, teams that usually take a lot of time off don't do as well. The tricky part about conference tournament play and who actually has an advantage is usually when you play the third day in a row or the fourth day in a row, you really wind up being at a disadvantage. Sometimes you get on a run and you can keep it going. The fourth day in a row, those legs are usually not there. Third day, sometimes. The second day in a row, it's usually an advantage over a team that's had a break. And I think that you'd see that, and that would play out. And I bet you over time, if you look at sort of even teams and upsets, that's happened more often than not. It would not be an advantage to just sit there waiting to play the championship game. I've thought like in mid-major level leagues where they should reward the regular season champion more, the only fair way. Like if I had a one-bid league, I was the commissioner of a one-bid league, one thing I would want is, and this would be bad for TV because they want the one game at the end, but you would sit there at the end. The regular season champion would be in the championship game. But not only that, whoever won the tournament would play them and would have to beat them twice because they'd won the regular season. And so that would be like the ultimate fair way to make the regular season mean a ton. And but the problem is, if you're a small league and you got one window on ESPN and now you explain, well, we have to play again tomorrow. It's going to be on ESPN Plus and nobody's going to see it.
Buck from Texas next. Number one, Booker's development is disappointingly slow and is being left behind by his teammates. You can see it and feel it, and his minutes are reflecting it. He needs to play lower to the ground and with purpose. 2, our whole mantra is team depth. Unfortunately, with the additional 90 seconds on each TV timeout in the tournament, it mitigates this advantage. Izzo knows this and is starting to focus minutes. I'm worried teams won't be worn out in the second half. And bonus, Jaden Akins as Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, that's not something I had a vote in. He's been great. There's no question about it. I don't. One of the reasons I'm glad you don't have a vote here is because I don't. You can look at some defensive metrics and guys who aren't as good, and it's one of the things with like Derek Queen at Maryland, who I don't think defensively is impactful, and he gets a lot of love because he's a really, really good offensive player. Even though Michigan State, I know he didn't have a great day against Michigan State, but to the number 2 here, the idea that the depth won't be is impactful because tournament games are longer. There may be something there, and that can be a challenge. I still think who Michigan State is late in games I don't know. It's proven itself out, but there's no doubt the games are a little bit longer. I don't know if they're at 90 seconds seems more than they are. A full minute and a half more. I don't know if that's actually the case.
David Zandy next. As the point differential shows, MSU dominated the Big Ten and easily won the championship. Good response by Izzo and the team so far this season. So, Michigan athletic teams continually act in inappropriate ways on and off the field, and then closes off the locker room and players to journalists. There is no accountability for their actions. It seems like the blue wall is actually a system built to stop journalists from doing their job.
Well, understand this. Almost every team does this. Michigan State is like the only team in the country. Maybe there's another one somewhere that has an open locker room. And some places may have any player you request, and it's a little better like that, but it is Michigan State is a unicorn in this sense. I don't think they should be. I think MSU has helped in the NCAA tournament because there are open locker rooms before and after games in the NCAA tournament, and I think even maybe in the Big Ten tournament. But what helps Michigan State then is you walk into those locker rooms in the NCAA tournament, and teams are not used to having reporters all around their stuff. They're not used to being interviewed the way they are, and it impacts them. And they're there to be focused on a game, whereas Michigan State's been doing it all year. They're used to people being traipsing all over their stuff and throwing microphones, and you got people now with iPhones like 3 inches from their nose. Talk about this. They're used to all that. I don't know who that was, by the way. That was nobody specific on the MSU beat, but I will. So it's not a U of M thing. It's just. But I will say this for any team that does that. Like, you don't get the benefit. You either make the obvious story available or the locker room open, or what we think is. I always say this, too, with, like, if you put the press in a place where they can't actually see the game clearly and they get something wrong based on what they see, that's not on them. That's on you. You need to put people where they – I'm not saying you have to put everybody courtside, but there are some places where you're, like, so high. It's like, I don't even know. Who is that down there? That stuff shouldn't be happening.
Shah Badoots next. Bake take, all that winning, and Izzo never had to break out his secret weapon, Nick Sanders. We have Barry Sanders' kid, and if he only has a fraction of his dad's talent, I bet if he got the opportunity, he'd be unstoppable.
Nick Sanders, the man. I mean, the underrated contribution this year was that he was the one who took the Liz Frank injury. The only foot injury this year that always hits this team was Nick Sanders. And so that's the man, yeah. That is a guy who's got the Final Four in his mind.
Jeff Melee next. 99% sure Jace has gone to the NBA, and he probably should make the jump. Thanks for the memories, Jace, and keep them rolling to the Final Four.
I don't think it's 99%, but the better he plays, the more he plays, the more you see the NBA interested in him. And I think the other thing is, like, my sense is they would not mind him being, like, go to a decent spot, a decent team. Like, the idea that, in other words, being a lottery pick and going to Charlotte does not all actually interest them all that much. Going to a place where you've got a decent culture and some winning going on and maybe some other veterans in place who are a little more solid, because it is all about getting the second contract. It really is. And so what puts you in the best situation for that? The other thing is, Gary Harris, miserable. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a rookie, miserable. Those guys early on would have rather stayed. And so you have to think about where you want to be. But that injury Jace Richardson had as a 16-year-old, where he didn't know if he was going to keep playing with his knee, I think that is probably something that weighs on him too. Like, if this is your opportunity, go do it.
TC Brunzi next. Dusty May had to lie and fake ignorance. He needs buy-in from his constituents, and defending MSU or Izzo in that moment doesn't win him any goodwill. He knows he's lying, but also knows he needs his own fan base.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I don't know that he's thought it through all that much. His response didn't sound like a man who thought it through all that much. And I just don't know Dusty May well enough to say that somebody's lying or faking it. It's just the problem is he's joined an athletic program that's got a history now. So he's just gonna if he wants out of that perception, then he's gonna have to explain it.
Couch on fire. There will be 1 million Spartan takes. Excuse me. So I'll go Red Wings and Tigers. Hard to believe Steve Yzerman is actually wearing out his welcome in Hockeytown, And the Tigers will be better than we thought this year with Javi and Torque. Good years. And bonus, a Big team will make a Big Ten team will make the Final Four, but won't win.
Yeah, the Yzerman stuff. I don't know. Some people really defend him, and I know he came into a shitty spot, but other people are a little worn out. And they just never landed the star. That's the problem. Is you're going to have to build it with like a collection of, you just.
But how long has Yzerman been doing it though?
7 years now, is it?
Yeah. See, I mean, it's like.
Well, it's the problem with hockey is you run out of time, and then you get expensive, and you have to be shitty for 30 years. I mean, that's sort of the. It would be very frustrating to be a hockey fan. Where I know basketball sort of created a hard cap now too, so it's harder to keep certain guys. But and football has this to some degree. But the idea that you just can't keep guys that you develop, I'm a firm believer in salary caps is a way to create some level of parity to some degree. But I've always thought if you develop, draft, whatever, if somebody's your own homegrown, that shouldn't count against you. Like that, there should be exceptions to that.
Hans Jurgent. Number 1, the foul on Ramil Robinson was bullshit. I recognize Seton Hall as the true 1989 national champions. 2, Chris Webber plus timeout equals second place. And 3, if Glenn Rice was on our 2000 national title team, he would have rode the pine next to Matt Ishbia. And bonus, yellow and blue makes green.
Thank you, Hans. Do you remember that Ramil Robinson game against Seton Hall in '89? That was like our.
I do.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
That was.
You have it as Remedial Robinson, so I was like, had to make a decision there. I'm like, I don't know. Is Hans trying to be funny?
Hans is trying to be funny.
Hans is trying with your autocorrect shit.
No,
copy paste.
That one was.
He meant to say Remedial.
Yeah, because Hans is on Blue Sky, so that was a copy and paste. Yeah, so that was these takes were thrown together many different ways thanks to Twitter being down this morning. I remember that. Like I've told that story before. How we had a TV that wasn't really working. We had to hit it with a sledgehammer on the side.
Yeah. And people don't believe that. Like, how would you hit your TV with a sledgehammer?
Well, not today. Like if you had a tube, the tube was the key.
I know. I'm talking going back to 1989 with the big ass TVs we had.
It was a rubber hammer. It wasn't like it was one hand rubber hammer. Boom. You just. And we used to hit it with our hand, but that wound up hurting a lot, and it didn't work. So eventually it took the rubber hammer.
We had a TV that we'd smack with a hand, yeah, for sure.
It got to the point where the only way to get it to work for the last few months was the actual rubber. So you come into our house in like 1989, and there's this tube TV, and we just kept on top of it. You had like a cable box somewhere, and it was a sledgehammer or was a rubber hammer. And that was like TV would go down, and boom. And that was a story almost worth telling, but told anyway, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing.
All right, Jake Hawkins finally here. Let's wrap this up. Jake Hawkins. All my years being an MSU fan, it's usually the football team that defies expectations and has a really good season. What this basketball team did is one of the best ever.
I think for a lot of people, it's one of the more enjoyable years, and we can debate years where they defied expectations. And I've had some good emails about the 2009 team. Really, probably trumped this in a lot of. Certainly, from a coverage standpoint, I've enjoyed this team. They are an enjoyable group. They've been better than expected, and they've won. And they've done something that I think people didn't know if it was going to happen again in the Izzo era, and that's made people feel really, really good. We will be back on Wednesday afternoon, and maybe we'll even have Jeff Kohler. We'll figure that out before then. We appreciate all of you. If somehow your takes were completely missed, blame Elon. Apologies, and we'll try to do better next week. We appreciate our friends at Muskox Flannels. Again, Go Muskox is the website, gomuskox.com, and then fix it in post for $15 off your flannel purchase. Go to pureoptions.com. We appreciate Pure Options, and if you're still listening to the show, I really hope you've got several MGs of Pure Options in your system. We appreciate Midtown Brewing Company and appreciate all of you. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Room.